Out in the heart of the wild, something unexpected is about to happen. One of nature's most beautiful and intense moments is unfolding, but not in the way we might expect. What happens when a wild animal shows more love than we could ever imagine? Ranger Josh is on his way to the scene. He's been through countless situations in the wild, but today feels different. Ranger Josh, we've got a situation. A bear's been spotted near a baby. Won't let it go. We need your expertise. Josh nods to himself as he hears the urgency in the voice. He's faced wildlife encounters before, but this is something he hasn't dealt with. He grips the steering wheel a little tighter, his eyes focused on the road ahead. The trees get thicker, the forest more dense. His mind races with possibilities. What could the bear want with a baby? Is it protecting its own cub, or is this something else entirely? I've got this. The truck bumps along the road, and Josh's focus never wavers. As he drives, the forest seems to swallow him up, the trees towering on either side, casting long shadows. It's quiet now, too quiet. Ranger Josh knows that every second counts. He doesn't know what he's about to walk into, but he's ready. The truck rumbles through the rough terrain as Josh approaches the area. His eyes remain fixed on the narrow, overgrown path ahead. The trees are dense, their branches forming a canopy overhead, and the forest feels alive with a kind of quiet tension. The air is thick with the scent of pine and earth, the sounds of distant birds and rustling leaves, but there's an underlying stillness that hints something is off. Josh slows the truck as he gets closer, his gaze sharp. "This is it," he mutters, more to himself than anyone else. He's trained for this, but even experience can't prepare him for what he's about to find. His hands tighten on the wheel, the dust from the road settling on the windshield as he parks a few yards away from the clearing. He grabs his radio, speaking quietly. "Ranger Josh here. What's the situation with the bear?" The voice on the other end crackles with urgency. "The bear's been holding its ground. Won't let anyone get close to the baby. It's acting strange, Josh." Josh nods, a feeling of unease creeping up his spine. "Understood. I'm heading in." He steps out of the truck, the forest air cool and crisp against his skin. His boots crunch on the ground as he moves toward the clearing, where the trees start to thin out. The sunlight catches the edges of the leaves, casting patches of light and shadow across the forest floor. As he gets closer, he can see movement up ahead. A large figure, massive, hulking, standing in the center of the clearing. The bear. Its fur is thick, its posture tense and watchful. It's not aggressive, but it's not backing down either. Something is different. Josh's instincts kick in, and he knows he has to approach carefully. He's dealt with protective animals before, but there's something in the bear's eyes that gives him pause. The baby, whatever it is, lies on the ground, partially hidden by the bear's massive form. Josh can't make out much yet, but the bear's low growl tells him everything he needs to know. This is no ordinary encounter. This isn't a fight or a chase. It's something much more complex. Josh kneels down slowly, his heart racing, every step calculated. The air is thick with tension. He knows one wrong move could change everything. But as he inches closer, something about the bear's stance catches his attention. It's not just standing guard, it's standing with purpose. The bear is watching him, studying him, and somehow, it feels like it's trying to communicate something. For a brief moment, the growling stops. The bear shifts its weight, still standing firm, but the moment of silence feels heavy. Josh watches the bear's eyes, searching for any sign of aggression, but there's none. It's almost as if the bear is waiting for something, waiting for him to make the first move. Josh takes a deep breath and steps forward, inching closer to the baby, trying to stay calm despite the mounting pressure. He's no stranger to animals in distress, but this situation is unlike anything he's encountered before. Something about the bear's protectiveness feels personal. Josh takes another slow, deliberate step forward, his eyes never leaving the bear. He feels the weight of its gaze, intense, focused. The air between them is thick with caution, but there's an undeniable bond, a silent understanding that neither will make a move without reason. The growl has stopped, but the tension in the air is almost palpable. As Josh gets closer, the baby comes into full view. It's a small, fragile thing, lying on the ground beneath the bear. The baby's eyes are wide, filled with fear, but there's something else there too. Something vulnerable, helpless. Josh's heart races as he sees the injury on the baby's leg, a deep scratch, blood staining the fur around it. The bear hasn't moved. It's still standing guard, its body tense and alert. The protective stance is unmistakable. Josh takes a moment to steady his breath, trying to calm his racing heart. This is no ordinary situation. He knows that. Something is different here. The bear's protectiveness, its refusal to let the baby go, it's not driven by instinct or territorial aggression. It's driven by something deeper. He kneels down slowly, trying to keep his movement steady. "It's okay," he murmurs softly, just loud enough for the bear to hear. He's not sure what he's hoping for, whether the bear will react to his voice or if he's simply speaking to reassure himself. The bear watches him closely, its large body unmoving, but there's a softness in its eyes now. The growl fades away into nothingness, replaced by a gentle whimper from the baby. The moment feels like it stretches on forever, a fragile balance between human and wild. Josh leans in a little closer, his voice low and soothing. "You don't have to protect it anymore. I can help." His words hang in the air, and for a split second, he wonders if the bear understands. The silence that follows is thick. Everything feels suspended in time. Then, a soft huff. The bear shifts just enough to allow Josh a closer look at the baby. It's a small human child, no more than 3 or 4 years old, clearly frightened, but alive. The injury on the child's leg is deep, but it's not immediately life-threatening. Still, the fear in the child's eyes is undeniable. Josh feels a wave of compassion, mixed with concern. This little one has been through something traumatic, and whatever bond the bear shares with the child is undeniable. The bear steps back just enough to let Josh approach, but its eyes never leave him. The motherly instinct is clear, even in the wild. It's a protective force that Josh knows he has to respect. "I've got you," Josh whispers to the child, now gently gathering them into his arms, careful not to jostle the injured leg. The bear watches, but it doesn't interfere. It stays a few paces away, its eyes soft yet watchful. It seems to understand, in its own way, that the child is in safe hands. Josh carefully stands, keeping his eyes on the bear as he begins to slowly retreat toward the truck. The bear follows them for a few steps, but then, as if satisfied, it stops, watching from a distance. Its protective nature hasn't wavered, but now it seems at peace. The child, still trembling, rests quietly in Josh's arms. The bond between the bear and the child is clear, and Josh knows that this moment, this connection, is something far more profound than he could have ever imagined. As Josh carefully makes his way back toward the truck, his mind is racing. The bear's actions, its fierce protectiveness of the child, have left him speechless. He can still feel the weight of its gaze on his back, watching every step. The forest feels quieter now, as if holding its breath. Josh moves slowly, making sure the child is comfortable in his arms. The leg injury isn't critical, but he knows they need help fast. With every step, he keeps his eyes on the bear. It hasn't moved from its spot in the clearing, but its presence looms large, a reminder of the raw, untamed power of nature. Josh wonders what could have led to this. Why would a bear protect a human child this way? He's seen animals take care of their own, but this is something different. He reaches the truck and gently places the child in the back seat, buckling them in carefully. The child is trembling, but their eyes are no longer as wide with fear. There's a quiet trust there now, and Josh feels a wave of gratitude. The bond they shared in those few moments in the clearing is something he'll never forget. As he slides into the driver's seat, Josh glances in the rearview mirror. The bear is still standing there, watching. It's almost as if it's waiting for Josh to drive away before it finally turns and disappears back into the woods. And as Josh starts the engine, the bear does just that, moving silently through the trees, vanishing from sight as quickly as it had appeared. Josh takes a deep breath, his chest tight with emotion. He can't shake the image of the bear, standing so protectively over the child, unwilling to let go. He knows that the bond between them wasn't just instinct. It was something far deeper. The forest holds mysteries like this, moments of raw emotion and unexpected connections that defy explanation. Driving away, Josh tries to process it all, but words don't come easily. He glances at the child in the back seat, still quietly staring out the window. For a moment, the world outside the truck seems to fade into the background. When Josh reaches the nearest hospital, a team of medical professionals rushes to the truck. They're efficient and calm, taking over the care of the child immediately. As Josh hands them over, he feels a strange sense of relief. He did what he needed to do. The child will be okay. But as he turns to leave, something stops him. He looks back at the forest, a fleeting thought passing through his mind. The bear is out there, somewhere, watching over the wilds with a love and protectiveness that Josh will never truly understand. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful forces in nature are driven by something beyond survival. As Josh heads back to his truck, the weight of what he's witnessed settles in. He knows he'll never forget this day. The wild, in all its raw beauty, has a way of teaching us things we can never learn from books or experience alone. It shows us that love, even in its most untamed form, exists in the most unexpected places. The truck rumbles to life, and Josh drives away, the forest behind him. But the memory of that bear, and the love it showed, will stay with him forever. As Josh drives away from the clearing, a knot tightens in his chest. His mind keeps replaying the scene. The bear, standing guard, unwilling to move, its protective stance a testament to a bond that felt almost human. There's something about the whole situation that feels so much more profound than just a rescue. Josh had seen plenty of animals acting out of instinct. But this was different. It was pure love, fierce and untamed, like nothing he'd ever witnessed before. The truck bumps along the dirt road, the sound of the tires on gravel a constant rhythm that drowns out the quiet thoughts swirling in his head. His fingers grip the wheel tighter, his focus broken only by the occasional glance in the rearview mirror. The child, now calm but still shaken, remains quiet in the back seat. They're no longer crying, but Josh can feel the weight of their fear in the air. It's a strange feeling, a mix of awe and sorrow. Josh knows that this isn't just another wildlife encounter. This is something that has shifted him in a way he can't fully put into words. There was something deeply moving about the way the bear had protected that child, something that went beyond survival or territorial instincts. It was as though the bear had become a mother figure, its protective instinct driven by something stronger than mere instinct. Josh pulls up to the small clinic on the edge of town, the place where the child will be taken care of. He steps out of the truck, still lost in thought, and opens the back door. The child is still staring out the window, but their eyes have softened. They're tired, worn from the experience, but they no longer look as frightened as they did before. The medical team quickly arrives, rushing to take the child from Josh's arms. He watches them carefully, making sure the child is in good hands. He can't shake the feeling that this moment, this connection between the bear and the child, has left a permanent mark on him. As the team carries the child inside, Josh lingers for a moment. He stands in the parking lot, his eyes scanning the edge of the forest, half expecting to see the bear standing there, watching over them. But there's nothing, just the quiet, empty trees in the distance. Still, he can feel its presence, like an unspoken promise that the wild will always protect its own. Josh walks back to his truck, taking one last look at the forest. He's done what he needed to do. The child is safe, the bear is out there somewhere, and the wild, in all its untamed glory, has shown him a side of itself he hadn't fully understood before. As Josh starts the engine and pulls away, he realizes that this encounter, this connection, will stay with him forever. It's more than just a story he'll tell. It's a reminder of the raw, unconditional love that exists in the world, in places where we least expect it. The bond between the bear and the child, so pure and protective, will always be a part of him. And as the truck disappears down the road, the forest behind him seems to hum with the memory of what just transpired. Josh takes one last deep breath and drives on, knowing that no matter what, he'll never forget the love he witnessed today. The love of the wild, in its most untamed, beautiful form. As Josh drives back toward town, the events of the day seem to replay in his mind, each moment lingering in his thoughts. The image of the bear, standing so protectively over the child, refuses to leave him. It's a powerful memory, one that challenges everything he thought he knew about the wild. The connection he witnessed between the two, something so raw and pure, has left him with more questions than answers. He glances in the rearview mirror again, almost expecting to see the child looking up at him, their eyes filled with gratitude or fear or something else entirely. But the back seat is empty now, and the silence in the truck feels heavier than before. The forest, too, feels distant now, as if it's miles away from the small world inside his vehicle. Yet Josh knows that what he witnessed in that clearing is something that will never feel far from his mind. As the truck reaches the outskirts of town, Josh feels the weight of the moment settling on him. He's seen a lot in his career: rescue operations, dangerous encounters, wild animals behaving in ways that are difficult to explain. But this was something else. He thinks about the bond the bear shared with the child. That kind of protectiveness, unwavering and fierce, isn't something you see every day. It wasn't about survival or territory. It was about something far deeper, something that connects all living beings in ways we can't always understand. Josh pulls into his driveway, the truck coming to a stop with a soft crunch of gravel under the tires. He sits there for a moment, the engine humming softly, but he doesn't move. He's still processing everything. He wonders what the future holds for the child. Will they remember the bear? Will they understand the depth of what just happened? And what about the bear? What will become of it now that its protective instinct has been tested? With a sigh, Josh finally gets out of the truck. The weight of the day follows him as he walks to his front door, each step slower than the last. But as he opens the door, he feels a sense of peace. Despite everything, the wildness, the danger, the uncertainty, there's something deeply reassuring about what he's experienced. It's a reminder that, even in the most unexpected places, love exists. The bear's protectiveness, its fierce devotion to the child, is a testament to the untold connections that can exist in the wild. Later that night, as Josh sits in his living room, the house quiet around him, he can't help but think about the wild. It has its dangers, its uncertainties, but it also holds moments of profound beauty. Moments when animals, guided by instincts and emotions we may never fully understand, show us a side of the world we're not always aware of. As Josh drifts off to sleep, the memory of the bear stays with him. Its eyes, its protectiveness, its love. And in that quiet, he realizes that the wild has a way of teaching us lessons we can't learn anywhere else. It shows us that love, in its purest form, doesn't need to be understood. It just needs to be felt. The sound of the wind rustling the trees outside lulls him into a peaceful sleep. And for the first time that day, Josh finally feels at ease. The next morning, the events of the previous day still weigh heavily on Josh's mind. As he sips his coffee in the quiet of his kitchen, his thoughts keep drifting back to the bear and the child. The image of the bear's protective stance lingers, and he wonders how long it had stayed by the child's side before he arrived. What had driven it to protect a human child so fiercely? His phone buzzes, snapping him out of his reverie. It's a message from the medical team that had cared for the child the previous evening. The child is stable, the leg injury is healing, and they're on their way to a family member. The note is brief, but it brings a sense of relief. Josh lets out a quiet breath he didn't realize he was holding. The child is going to be okay. But that doesn't answer the bigger question. Why did the bear behave the way it did? Josh knows that animals in the wild can sometimes show unusual behavior, but this felt different. This felt almost human. He thinks back to the moment when the bear stepped back, allowing him to take the child into his arms. It was a quiet understanding, as if the bear knew it wasn't the enemy, but that Josh was someone who could help. His phone buzzes again, this time a message from his fellow ranger. "Hey Josh, we've been hearing reports about a bear spotted near a family home in the area. Could be the same one. Thought you'd want to know." Josh stares at the message for a moment, uncertainty creeping into his thoughts. The bear is still out there, somewhere, and now it's near human dwellings. He knows he has to do something. The last thing he wants is for the bear's protective instincts to be misinterpreted, or worse, for the bear to feel threatened. He finishes his coffee quickly and heads out to his truck. The drive feels different today, as if the world has shifted ever so slightly. The weight of his responsibility to both the bear and the child hangs over him. It's not just about rescue or intervention anymore. It's about understanding something deeper, something that transcends the boundaries between human and animal. As he arrives at the family home where the bear was reportedly seen, Josh feels a surge of urgency. The sun is rising, casting a soft golden light over the land, but there's an unease in the air. The family who lives here is still inside their home, unaware of the bear's presence nearby. Josh approaches cautiously, hoping that if the bear is close, it will sense his presence and avoid the area. He walks slowly, scanning the trees and listening for any sound that might indicate the bear's location. His heart races with anticipation, but he knows he can't rush this. He can't afford to make any mistakes. Suddenly, a rustling noise from the trees catches his attention. Josh stops, his senses heightened. The bear isn't far. It's out there, watching. And then he sees it. Through a gap in the trees, he spots the bear's massive form, just at the edge of the clearing. It's still, its eyes locked on him, a protective energy emanating from its stance. For a moment, neither Josh nor the bear moves. They simply observe each other, both aware of the other's presence, but unsure of what comes next. Then, slowly, the bear turns and walks back into the woods, disappearing just as quietly as it had appeared. Josh stands still for a moment longer, absorbing what just happened. The bear had seen him, acknowledged him, and then let him go. It wasn't afraid, and it didn't see him as a threat. It simply knew. Josh takes a deep breath and walks back to his truck. As he drives away, he can't help but feel a strange sense of peace. There's something about the wild that can't be explained, something that runs deeper than understanding or logic. In that moment, he realizes that he doesn't need to understand the bear's actions completely. The wild doesn't work on human terms. It works on instinct, on connection, on something primal that defies explanation. As the truck disappears down the road, Josh's thoughts return to the child. Safe now, on their way to family, healed by the care of the medical team. But the connection between the bear and the child, and the bond that Josh witnessed, will stay with him forever. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound moments happen when we least expect them, and that love, in all its forms, can show up in the most unlikely places. The forest fades from view as Josh drives on, but the memory of the bear remains clear in his mind. And as he turns the corner onto the main road, he knows that the wild will continue to surprise him, and that some mysteries, some connections, are better left unexplained.